Royal families are very good at hiding their problems. They don't burn scandals. They freeze them inside palaces and pretend they never existed. But sometimes the scandal has a face and a name. In 19th century Vienna, a city obsessed with etiquette, gossip, and appearances, that face belonged to Archduke Ludwig Viktor of Austria, the youngest brother of Emperor Franz Joseph I. To the public, he was charming and eccentric. To the imperial court, he was a problem. To history, he became something else entirely. The gay Archduke the Habsburgs tried to erase. He loved art more than war, men more than marriage, and gossip more than duty. And when Vienna finally turned on him, the prince who once danced under palace chandeliers died alone behind locked doors, treated like a secret too scandalous to exist. This is his story. And if forgotten royal scandals are your kind of history, hit subscribe so these stories don't disappear as neatly as the empires that created them. Ludwig Viktor Joseph Anton was born on May 15, 1842, in Vienna, the youngest son of Archduke Franz Karl of Austria and Princess Sophie of Bavaria, and the youngest brother of the future Emperor Franz Joseph I. His parents had already lost their only daughter. They had hoped for another girl. Instead, they got Ludwig, lively, mischievous, and impossible to contain. His mother dressed him in elaborate costumes for tableaux vivants, living pictures where nobles posed as scenes from famous paintings. Ludwig adored it, the costumes, the drama, the applause. While his older brothers were trained for duty, he learned to perform. He grew up mostly among women, his mother's ladies-in-waiting, musicians, tutors, and servants, and absorbed their grace, wit, and talent for conversation. By childhood, it was clear this was not a typical Habsburg. Where his brothers followed rules, Ludwig invented his own. In 1848, revolution shook Vienna. The imperial family fled, and by the end of the year, 18-year-old Franz Joseph was emperor. Ludwig watched from the sidelines, too young to rule and too vivid to disappear. He was never going to be the serious sovereign. He was going to be something far less manageable. Like every Habsburg prince, Ludwig was pushed into the army. On paper, he played his part: training, parades, medals, promotion. In 1860, he became titular head of an infantry regiment bearing his name. Later, he would hold the rank of general. In reality, his heart wasn't there. He preferred music to maneuvers, conversation to commands. Officers joked that his mind wandered during drills, off to operas and salons instead of strategy. Franz Joseph saw the problem and looked for a solution that was part job, part exile. In 1861, Ludwig was made imperial representative in Salzburg. In the grand residence and at Schloss Klesheim, he finally felt at home. The music, the mountains, the slower rhythm of life suited him. He hosted dinners, staged small performances, collected art, and refined the persona he liked best. Not soldier, not statesman, but connoisseur of beauty and pleasure. His true battlefield would not be war, it would be society. When he returned to Vienna, the city had become a glittering stage. Theaters, cafes, and concert halls filled the streets, and art, architecture, and gossip flourished. Ludwig understood that in this world, appearances were power. In 1863, he commissioned his own palace on Schwarzenbergplatz, designed by star architect Heinrich von Ferstel. The Palais Ludwig Viktor was a neo-Renaissance jewel with a vast ballroom, a grand dining hall, and a winter garden filled with exotic plants and statues, marble, mirrors, and gold leaf everywhere. If he could not command armies, he would command attention. He hosted masquerade balls and musical evenings that drew the elite of Vienna. Even Emperor Franz Joseph and Empress Elizabeth Sisi sometimes attended, amused and uneasy. Ludwig collected art obsessively and embraced a new invention, photography. He posed again and again, sometimes in theatrical costumes, sometimes in ways that teased convention. One famous image shows him dressed as a woman, bouquet in hand, smiling at the camera. It was probably taken for a court performance where men played the female roles, but the photograph poured fuel on old rumors. Vienna whispered. Ludwig listened and did not back down. He wore elegant suits, moved confidently through operas and cafes, and surrounded himself with handsome young men. Everyone at court knew he was attracted to men. No one said it aloud. In an age when same-sex desire was criminal and condemned, his openness was extraordinary and dangerous. For years, his status as the emperor's brother protected him. He enjoyed what the court called Narrenfreiheit, the fool's freedom. He could say things others could not. His wit was legendary, so were his insults. At dinners, he could turn gossip into a weapon. People laughed when he spoke and silently prayed they weren't his next target. But jokes create enemies. His friendship with Empress Elizabeth soured when he stayed loyal to his formidable mother, Archduchess Sophie, and repeated unkind gossip about Sisi's vanity and obsession with beauty. She hit back in private verses, describing him as frail, deceitful, a monkey whose pastime was lies and whose trade was slander. He was also suspected of helping expose the scandalous affair of Princess Louise of Belgium with Officer Geza von Mataschik, a scandal that ended with Louise declared insane and confined. Whether he truly revealed it or not, many believed he had. His nephew Archduke Franz Ferdinand, at first friendly, came to resent him after Ludwig mocked his marriage to Sophie Chotek as a misalliance. By the late 1890s, the emperor's intelligence office routinely mentioned Ludwig's eccentricities in secret reports. For years, a loyal chief of staff quietly paid blackmailers and contained incidents. When that protector was replaced by Count Max Thun Hohenstein, the shield vanished. Powerful relatives who saw Ludwig as an embarrassment and a risk to their own secrets were no longer interested in saving him. They were waiting for him to fall. That fall came in 1904 in a place built for relaxation and whispers. The Kaiserbrundel was a luxurious men's bathhouse in central Vienna. Officially, it was a respectable spa. Unofficially, it was known as a meeting place for men seeking forbidden company. According to multiple accounts, Ludwig Viktor was there when everything collapsed. The details differ, but the core is the same. The Archduke made an advance toward another man. The man responded by slapping him across the face. In Vienna's culture of honor, a slap was more than an insult. It was humiliation. Within days, the story spread through salons and servants' corridors. Some believed it was a trap arranged by enemies such as Franz Ferdinand. The major newspapers remained silent. Only a satirical paper joked about a bathing prince who had lost his dignity. Inside the Hofburg, the message was clear. This could not become a public scandal. Franz Joseph had tolerated whispers. He could not tolerate his brother becoming the punchline of a joke about homosexuality and disgrace. The solution was simple and merciless. An official explanation appeared. The Archduke was leaving Vienna for his health. On February 1st, 1904, Ludwig Viktor quietly departed the city he had once ruled through charm and gossip. No crowds watched him go. No orchestra played. He was not sent to prison or to a distant colony. His punishment was colder. He was ordered to disappear while still alive. The court called it retirement. In reality, it was house arrest in a gilded cage. Ludwig was sent back to Salzburg, to Schloss Klesheim, the same estate where he had once hosted glittering summer parties. Now, it became his confined world. He kept a small household and still dressed with care. Locals saw him ride through town in a carriage, polite and dignified as if nothing had changed. He supported local charities, funded the Salzburg Art Association, and remained a quiet patron of museums. His nieces Gisela and Marie Valerie visited and loved their eccentric uncle. But from Vienna, The silence deepened. Letters stopped. Invitations ended. Officially, he had not been disgraced. Everyone understood the truth. He was tolerated, not forgiven, a living reminder of a scandal the dynasty wanted to forget. Age and isolation took their toll. By around 1910, his memory slipped. In 1915, Franz Joseph placed him under legal guardianship. The man who had once filled palaces with laughter was now limited to a few locked rooms with barred windows and a strict routine. Outside, the world shattered. The First World War tore the Austro-Hungarian Empire apart. In 1916, Franz Joseph died. The monarchy staggered and then collapsed. Ludwig Viktor, the last surviving son of Archduke Franz Karl, outlived his powerful brother and the empire that had sent him away. In January 1919, 2 months after the Habsburg monarchy was officially abolished, Ludwig Viktor died at the age of 76. There was no grand state funeral. He was buried quietly near Salzburg, in the cemetery of the small parish church at Seeham. No banners, no royal guard, just winter air and the sound of earth falling on a coffin. The scandal that once made Vienna whisper faded into rumor. The empire that feared his existence vanished from the map. The man they called Loosey Woosey, the gay Archduke who embarrassed a dynasty, had outlived them all, and in the end, his life exposed what royal respectability really was. Not unshakable power, but a fragile costume, terrified of the truths it could not admit. If you want more stories like this, the scandals, secrets, and forgotten lives behind the crowns, don't forget to subscribe. Do it before history buries the next one too.